Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Retail Tales. My name is Saurabh, and I'm the host of this podcast. If you are a returning listener, you already know what this podcast is all about. But if you're tuning in for the first time, this is a podcast which is exclusively focused on discussing all things AI across the retail value chain. On the show today, we have someone who has been at the forefront of revolutionizing the intersection of sustainability, innovation, and technology. He has worked with organizations across the globe in North America, EMEA, and Asia. He excels at creating digital first and scalable solutions that enhance the entire product lifecycle by using AI capabilities. I've had the privilege of collaborating with him during his previous stint as the Global Vice President of Product Innovation and Consumer Creation at Nike. Up close and personal, I've seen him in action, dismantling traditional silos, integrating AI and now generative AI to redefine product creation. So please join me as I welcome a true pioneer and a leader in his own right, Jalaj Hora. Jalaj, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Retail Tales. I'm extremely excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Saurabh. My pleasure to join.
Thank you, Jalaj. So, for everyone tuned in, through our conversation today, I'll try and explore Jalaj's thoughts on future of product creation in retail with AI and generative AI capabilities. We'll also, talk about some of these capabilities that are almost reshaping the trajectory of retail industry as we know it, and the role of AI in sustainable ways of product creation. Jalaj, I know we have a lot of topics to cover today, but let's start with you telling the listeners about your professional journey and some of the most pivotal moments in your career.
Thank you, Saurabh. It's a pleasure. It's one of also the toughest things for me to talk about myself. So I'm going to try to do my best. I'd just like to start by saying that I describe myself as a systems thinker who's dedicated his career to designing interconnected ecosystems that dissolve silos and deliver lasting value. I've had the privilege of being a transformation leader for the past 2 decades of my experience. I've had the privilege of navigating both corporate and entrepreneurial worlds, developing deep expertise in product, technology, strategy, and delivering innovation at scale. My corporate career, as you rightfully mentioned, was shaped by icons like Nike, Burberry, Target, where innovation and operational efficiency were the fundamental building blocks of my career. My career has spanned across industries in profiles ranging from an engineer, a consultant, a supply chain leader, a retail executive, enabling me to drive impactful transformations that enhance customer outcomes. And most recently, I've also taken on the role of a visiting professor to an eminent UK university where I hope to influence scalability of research and IP generation for the university. I like to live a multidimensional life. So apart from what I do at work, I've collaborated with NGOs like the British Fashion Council in the UK, the Monitor for Circular Fashion in Italy, and these organizations have really helped me contribute to the governance of circular ecosystems by aligning technology with long-term impact goals.
Mm.
If you were to visit the Design Museum in London, you'll probably get to see an exhibition I've collaborated with the Future Observatory on called Tomorrow's Wardrobe.
That's amazing.
So, I've tried to stay plugged into an industry that is evolving fast, but has not always been the fastest to evolve, and trying to make sure that while we steer the course for the executives, that the incoming generations are also coming in with eyes wide open and a readiness to dive in and take the industry to its next frontier.
Yeah. No, Jalaj, look, that's very impressive. And I'm sure your students are in for a treat because with all that experience, I have no doubt that the classrooms are going to get filled. And with that pedigree of your experience across different companies, and your pedigree across some of the most loved brands in the market. Let me try and get your thoughts on what are the organizations of today, the retail companies, consumer product companies. What do these organizations do well, and what do they not do well when it comes to product design, when it comes to innovation, product creation, if you will?
I think that, innovation has increasingly been accepted as an essential function across the consumer products industry. I think across the board, organizations that are successfully leveraging innovations to generate value have ended up platformizing innovation. It's no longer blue sky research labs or only problem solving functions that work within the realm of innovation. However, the challenges that organizations face across design and innovation are distinct at every different segment of the industry.
Yeah.
So if I look at the luxury sector, they are very distinct to, let's say, sportswear or mass
Yeah.
retail sector here in the United States. But if I were to take a holistic view of the industry, I've yet to see a model where the innovation organization has the appropriate level of autonomy that seamlessly integrates into the inline functions of the organization. In many ways, technology and product innovation organizations are put into separate silos that don't always connect. Relationships between design and technology are like distant cousins at best.
Yeah.
The other big challenge is the quality of consumer insights that creators and innovators are privy to.
Mhm.
I believe that this is changing, and it's changing the pace and accelerating what AI and generative AI can do to successfully deliver value to the consumer.
So that's, I mean, the underlying tone of what you said is it's still evolving. It's, I mean, and evolution is the key. But that was from an organization's perspective. Let's also try and bring in the end consumer point of view. What do you think consumers care about? Do you think AI and Gen AI capabilities are gonna be able to influence consumers' preferences, consumers' buying patterns? And if yes, how so?
I think there is an indirect relationship, and that's why the realm that you and I work on, which is the application of AI and generative AI into this industry, is the most exciting one. Consumers really don't care about AI or generative AI. Consumers care about convenience.
Yeah.
Consumers care about increasing level of performance, increasing level of personalization, increasing levels of need and desire fulfillment. And what AI and generative AI can do in a phenomenal manner for us is help us develop deeper insights into those current and emerging consumer needs, desires, shopping habits, patterns, sometimes predict better than even the consumers themselves on what they're going to need and want next.
So Jalaj, I know you are, you're a globetrotter, a sought after leader in the world of product creation. I know you interact with leaders from across the globe on this topic. And I'm just wondering if you could talk about, what are some of the leaders, some of the companies or some of the leaders in those companies, what do they seem to be missing when it comes to AI and generative AI capabilities in product creation? Like, where are the opportunities?
That's a really good question, Saurav. I think universally, generative AI is either feared for taking away jobs or for exposure to legal and ethical challenges for the enterprise.
Mhm.
That's sort of the general status quo of the industry. For effective deployment of broad spectrum machine learning and AI capabilities, as well as generative AI, leaders in product creation need to first educate themselves on these technologies, their potential, as well as the risk. I noticed that the awareness levels are rather low or they are anecdotal. In addition, having a robust governance mechanism that is inclusive of design, product creation, planning, marketing, legal, a cross section of departments that come into play is going to be key to navigate the complex landscape of emerging capabilities that these next generation technologies are unleashing upon us.
Yeah.
I think while I think about organizational elements, one key part of all this is upskilling of the workforce in design and product creation areas to be able to responsibly prompt engineer their way into successful product creation.
Mm.
Now, I see creative teams on the loose, trying every tool out there to get started on their mood boards and inspiration. Some more technically advanced organizations are providing safe ecosystems for these innovators and designers to create and iterate on the digital versions of their product. However, this is few and far between.
Yeah.
Another aspect that I think needs to be kept in mind is the rate of diffusion of AI and generative AI is so fast at a global level that in several cases, I find that the supply chain partners are further ahead in the deployment and use of AI than the brands themselves.
Mm.
So they are being outpaced by their supply chain partners.
You're so right.
And this gap will continue to widen if organizations don't proactively take an approach of governance and setting standards for themselves.
Yeah.
You cannot wait for regulatory mechanisms to kick in before you start using these technologies at scale.
Yeah. Well, regulatory mechanisms have a tendency of kind of lagging behind the innovation curve anyway. And when you started responding to that, this question, you spoke about awareness. So, and this whole initiative of the Retail Tales is basically to, a very small step in making people aware about the application and the value that AI and generative AI or similar capabilities can drive for them across the retail value chain. So, no, thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Jalaj, let's pivot a little and talk about sustainable ways of product creation as well. I actually have two questions for you, but let's start with the role of AI in elevating sustainable ways of product creation. I think much of, sustainability when it comes to product design and product creation is, still kind of an afterthought for most organizations. I think you'd probably agree, but if you don't, let me know that it's not yet where it's ought to be for companies to achieve their goals of sustainable product creation. So I want to know if in your opinion, if in your views, AI can help with that, and if so, how?
Great question again, Saurabh. At the heart of my work is a deep commitment to sustainability and circularity. I think we are at a critical juncture where technology can be harnessed to deliver to more goals than just profit generation and revenue generation. So I believe that this question around how can AI and generative technologies be leveraged to put carbon footprint of our creation in the hands of the creators rather than the manufacturers, or worse still, the sustainability teams that support them is key.
Yeah.
I also think that the brands who are serious about delivering their 2030 and beyond commitments on climate change and carbon footprint will start measuring their performance and the performance of their creative, merchandising, and manufacturing teams by allocating carbon budgets to them.
Interesting.
First, I can get to a much more granular level in terms of innovating on materials that have a low carbon score, designing with processes that have a low carbon footprint or impact, using materials and techniques that are able to mitigate some of the damage that is being done with the use of plastics and microplastics, etc. But I think at the core of it lies the challenge of the creatives to be able to create consciously. And that doesn't mean that all the knowledge needs to sit within their minds or within their realms of practice.
Yeah.
AI can be a collaborator in building much more sustainable product that then can go on to be measured and reported in ESG reports for organizations.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And I was actually talking to a couple of clients a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how they are worried about their net zero kind of targets. And I'm like, yeah, but in my mind, I didn't say that out loud, but in my mind, it's like it's an afterthought for you, and that's why you're struggling to figure it out. Because if it's not, then sustainability goals should basically be in the design of a product itself, rather than, hey, how do we do it? How do we distribute this product sustainably? So that kind of also makes a difference. But staying on top of this sustainability topic for a couple of more minutes, my second question, I wanted to ask you about how should retailers, for private labels, start and accelerate their journey on sustainable ways of product creation? And beyond AI, what are some of the other technologies that they should care about and they should, strategically look into?
I think that today, what is fundamental to a successful product creation with the necessary needs, features, functionality is an effective digital product creation pipeline.
Mm.
And a digital product creation pipeline has to be built on the foundations of sound data practices and data flow and data engineering mechanisms. What this does enable the creatives as well as the merchants to do is to be able to proactively envision, design, deliver, and preempt some of the challenges that the conventional physical manufacturing industry poses
Mm-hmm.
to the brands. And this is where I think investment seems to lag across the industry. I had the privilege of building what is probably one of the first, if not the few, end to end connected pipelines for digital assets to flow through and
Mm-hmm.
become products entirely virtually while collaborating virtually with the prototypists, with the manufacturers, and to mitigate some of the mistakes, challenges, and the huge amount of waste that takes place in
Yeah.
the physical prototyping of product, let alone the carbon footprint of sending samples back and forth
Yeah.
for thousands of samples in the season.
Yeah.
So I think even if we don't look at the generative AI or AI aspects, technology is intrinsic to the future of product creation, and AI is only going to turbocharge these capabilities. So I don't think that you can deploy or think about deploying AI and generative AI capabilities if the foundational pipeline for digital product creation is either missing or is fragmented.
That was great, Jalaj. Thanks for sharing that. The data aspect of it is also so true. The underlying data and the availability, accessibility, and quality of data that makes every AI application kind of perform to its fullest. Otherwise, you're throwing garbage in and maybe quadrupling garbage out. As a thoughtful leader in the industry, as a thoughtful pioneer at the intersection of product technology and sustainability, Jalaj, what's the one thing that worries you the most about AI and generative AI in product design and innovation? And and then what's the one thing that excites you the most?
I wish I could narrow it down to one thing.
We'll give you two or three. Go for it.
You. Thank you. I think that there are some very unique capabilities that generative AI will deliver in the coming years. I know that I have no doubt that it will turbocharge the capabilities of an innovator to innovate
Mm-hmm.
and a designer to create. But what we'll also do is tie in consumer insights, needs, and patterns into the process of product creation. It'll become possible to navigate the complex challenges that humanity faces today across multiple teams to mitigate climate risk, biodiversity loss, plastic pollution, and just the general waste that is created while building
Mm.
new products. But as is always the case, I think the commitment has to come from top. If companies continue to be solely focused on growth and profitability, then most of the investments are going to go into speed, efficiency building, resource optimization versus the health of the industry, the consumers, and the planet.
Agreed. So well said. Well said. And that was phenomenal. Actually, that was going to be my last question, but Now I am I'm being a little greedy. So if you'd indulge me, and before we wrap the episode today, is there anything else that you'd like to advise your fellow leaders, fellow design leaders, fellow product innovation leaders as they think about embedding AI and generative AI capabilities in their product lifecycle?
Well, thank you for allowing me to share my views. I hope I can provide suggestions and inspiration rather than advice. Uh, Changing behaviors is a complex aspect for any organization, any leader. So my suggestion to the product creation and design leaders in the industry is not to approach the future the way they have been approaching it in the past, one season at a time, heavily tied to questionable forecasts. I think data quality has to be an enterprise-wide priority. Just because you work in the creative realm does not exonerate you from making sure that the hygiene of data that flows through your area is poor.
Yeah.
I think it's important that they commit to upskilling themselves and their teams on the responsible use of transformational technologies to build the products of the future. That they address the fear that today many in the workforce feel with regards to their ongoing relevance and an increasingly AI-enabled world that is likely to take away their jobs. I hope they take a long view on the use of generative technologies and design an ecosystem that combines skills and wisdom of the existing talent with the computational and generative genius of technology to create more personalized products and services for the consumer.
Great. Thank you, Jalaj. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for your candid responses. Thank you for speaking your mind and sharing your views. It was really great having you on the show today.
My pleasure, Saurav, and I'm grateful for the invitation, and I really hope and wish that this show and its impacts go far and wide.
Thank you, Jalaj. For the folks who are interested in learning more and looking to get connected with Jalaj, please reach out to him on LinkedIn. And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of the Retail Tales. Thanks for listening. Here's me, Saurabh, signing off. If you like the content, don't forget to follow this show and keep learning a thing or two about retail AI. You can follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to this show on Spotify or Apple. Join me in the next episode of the Retail Tales, a show which is exclusively focused on exploring all things AI across the retail value chain. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay curious.